Before we begin, I just want to give a shout out to Gary Cockfield, who is my community CERT team member. Thank you, Gary, for everything you do. Let's get started. So here, when disaster strikes, most people think about firefighters, deputies, paramedics, but what about the trained neighbors that might already be living on your street? Today, we're talking about CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, what it is, why it matters, and why community preparedness may be more important than ever. Today, we have an exciting full house. We're joined by Commissioner Mike Rahn from District 4. We are also joined by Steve Litschauer and Sharon Denson from the Trailer Estates CERT team, and also our very own Director of Public Safety, Jodie Fiske. Welcome, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to have you here. Commissioner Rahn, why is this conversation so important to have right now?
Well, when I first met Sharon, I thought when she first introduced me to CERT, I thought it was so cool that these are citizen volunteers that are going out pre-storm and post-storm to help citizens within Manatee County. And so I thought being able to have these boots on the ground, working with our public safety, that it's so important that these teams are out there and that the rest of the citizens of Manatee County know who they are, and also maybe help get more volunteers for the CERT teams that are all throughout Manatee County. So I just thought this was a really cool idea. I've never heard of it before. And Sharon and I met some time ago, and we've been at several CERT breakfasts, met a lot of the members of those teams, and I thought it was just a really great idea for their service to Manatee County and what CERT does.
And Jodie, I'm going to ask you to jump in before we get into our CERT team members here. What is CERT and how does it work with public safety?
So the community emergency response teams, they're actually nationwide. I think nationwide there's just over 600,000 registered CERT volunteers. Program actually started at the FEMA level, and they provide a lot of the trainings, but it's up to local jurisdictions to engage with their volunteers, to engage with their community, to promote that preparedness, but the resilience aspect of it as well.
Makes a lot of sense. So Sharon, Steve, maybe I'll start with you, Steve. How did you get involved?
Well, I first got involved when I was with emergency management, working with the CERT teams. But in Manatee County, there's over 20 CERT teams with over 500 volunteers. And the way most of us look at CERT teams, they're a force multiplier. And as we came out of this hurricane seasons a couple of years ago, there's not enough people to go around. And the one big phrase with CERT is neighbors helping neighbors. The neighbors are there in their neighborhood. They know their neighbors, whether they're home or not. They know what's going on. And I can tell you, and I think the director would agree, that even if there's no damage in a particular neighborhood, them communicating with emergency management saying, we're good, that helps them know that a particular area of the county doesn't need help where another area is. And the 25 teams we have now, and they're growing, goes anywhere from Parish to Lakewood Ranch to out in Glen Lakes where I live. There's teams, Lakewood Ranch, as you know, just was recognized for 20 years of being a team, to we have some now that are less than 6 months old. So it's really about neighbors helping neighbors and getting involved and being those extra eyes and ears.
That's great. And Sharon, how about you? How did you get started?
Well, I got started because a neighbor badgered me until I finally took the class back in '08. Going on with what Steve said, neighbors helping neighbors is wonderful. But if you're not trained to help your neighbors, you can get yourself hurt and your neighbors hurt. So the CERT training is more than just a disaster training. You're trained in some medical first aid, psychologically how to handle people who are distressed, and there's a lot more to it than just going door to door checking on your neighbors. But again, they discovered in California when they started the CERT program out there that they didn't have enough help, and the people were coming forward and getting in to help, and they were losing their volunteers. They were getting killed.
Wow.
And your CERT training teaches you, number one, you are number one. You don't do things that are not safe.
That makes a lot of sense. So, Jodie, and back to our emergency management team. So how does our county team use and leverage the CERT teams?
So Steve really actually kind of nailed it when he said that what the teams do is they let us know within their neighborhoods the status of the neighborhood. So for trailer estates, their impacts are going to be very different than what Lakewood Ranch is seeing. So we count on them for situational reports from the, we refer to them as their areas of operation or their AOs, and they let us know that their neighborhood is good. They let us know if, maybe a home is partially collapsed or, hey, there's a fire. They are able to provide us kind of that ground information, and we are realizing that it is coming from teams that know what they're looking at. This is not just from a random citizen. We dealt with a lot of misinformation in 2024 on social media. So the CERT teams being on the ground in their neighborhoods are very helpful to us to verify information if it's coming from that specific area.
So that's great. You mentioned 2024. Obviously, a terrible year in terms of disasters and the impacts here in Manatee County. What are we doing today in 2026 to prepare for this next season?
Well, I think it's one of the things is helping grow the teams. And out of those 20-plus teams, I'm going to say since 2024, there's probably at least 3 or 4 brand new teams forming. And I think that is making more of the areas realize that they need, again, those eyes and ears. And a big thing that Sharon mentioned is safety. And as we teach in the class that number one is your safety, but I use the phrase they learn what to do, and that mean maybe basic first aid, a fire extinguisher, but again, what not to do. Because as has seen after a disaster, if not more, many people are injured after a disaster than beforehand. So we're teaching them about gas leaks or not touch that electrical wire. So sometimes it's teaching them what not to do rather than what to do. But I think that the community is seeing the need, and now we're trying to, again, they are neighborhood-based throughout the county, and it's growing. And there has been protocols put in place of the training of what to relay to emergency management. They don't need to know that somebody's window's broken. They need to know there's a fire or major roads blocked. So again, it's that force multiplier that can help not just emergency management, but the fire departments and so forth.
Well, another thing that we stress, and I know Steve does too in his classes, is working with your fire department. I have the fire department come in and teach 2 of my units for my CERT class. And during the 2024 hurricanes, we had people who were not evacuating out of trailer estates. And we were able to get a hold of the fire department, who went door to door and got them evacuated. So we work very closely with our fire department, and they're fantastic.
So you're connecting your neighbors to information, to resources, is what I'm hearing. Tell us about the training. What kinds of training does a CERT team member get to have?
Sure. It's divided up. It's about 24 hours, but Sharon alluded to it earlier. A lot of it is team building, but they get basic first aid. They get fire safety. They learn how to use a fire extinguisher. You're surprised at how many people has never touched one. They learn about shutting off gas supplies or shutting off electricity. They learn splinting, stop the bleed. There's a class that's called disaster psychology, letting the people know those reactions to a disaster, those are normal reactions to abnormal times. There is terrorism. The biggest thing on that is what not to do. CERT members don't get involved in terrorism, but it goes back to the phrase, see something, say something. They actually, during the class, do a scenario. They use radios, and some people's never touched a radio, but they go out and simulate maybe a tree's down or someone's pinned. They work with the fire department on carries in case somebody needs to be carried out. So it's a quite compressed class, and it can be over different periods of time, but it's 24 hours really giving them the exposure. But what we do is try to whet their appetite to go out and get more first aid, CPR trained, and additional training, some of the additional FEMA classes.
The other thing that we do, and I'm going to pat us on the back a little bit, and Steve was instrumental in this, but we discovered after a hurricane, communication was a real problem. there were areas that was Irma, that we had no power. We had nothing. But because it wasn't countywide, EOC wasn't activated, we couldn't get help from any. We couldn't get out. We had no communication at all. And so Steve put together the person from each team, and they worked out a system. I think we're number one probably in the country with our communication here in Manatee County, because we work with ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Services, and they've set up a network now, so no matter whether you've got a telephone, a ham radio, a computer, whatever you got, one of them can get the information to EOC, and that's been fantastic. I don't know of any other county that has it.
And if I may piggyback on that, want to compliment the county. I think it was a couple meetings ago, Bayview, Del Webb, and Parish was given a grant through Neighborhood Services to buy radios for their group. My particular home group, Glen Lakes, we got some funding from the Patterson Foundation that went and bought radios for our group. So this communication plan has been built that if self-service is up, that's great. But if self-service isn't, then these radios within the team can communicate, and then when needed, go to the ham radio operator who actually has a person in the EOC over ham radio that can relay that information. So as everyone knows, better prepared, better communication, better knowledge. Again, do they need help or don't they need help? That we've looked at ways of covering that lack of communications.
No, I love that. And Jodie, on our end, so if we've got folks in the CERT teams with radios talking to those people in the EOC, tell me, how does that connect to the county's operations?
So the ham radio network is a separate set of frequencies from the actual public safety responders. So they are able to communicate to our ham radio operators without impacting actual emergency operations that are going on. That was something... and I think Steve could probably speak a little bit to it during Hurricane Michael in the Panhandle. What we experienced up there was a lot of the cell towers went down, and ham radio was how mission requests were coming into the state EOC from counties. So that network is always up and running. What's interesting is that having that information coming into the ham radio operations, it then goes to our plans desk, and depending on the nature of the update, it can be included in our sit rep that's going out to the responders in the field so that they know. So it's really just, it's another way to create a holistic picture of what's happening in field operations.
So I love that we have volunteers working with our county emergency response team. Commissioner, I'm curious for you. Do you have a favorite story or something that you witnessed because you were chair during the 2024 hurricanes of how CERT teams played a role?
Well, I think you saw during the 2024 storms, all three of them that hit all basically at one time. I mean, our EOC was a command center. I mean, really, being in Operation Desert Storm and being in the Marine Corps and being in those combat situations, we were a combat operational EOC. And communications is the most important thing out there. And I think the communications between the EOC and the CERT teams was well done. I mean, I think that the conversations back and forth, the communications back and forth, where people are down, what's happening, those things, because Jodie can't, as the director of the EOC and emergency management, can't have all these boots on the ground. I can't staff her enough to have all the boots on the ground that she needs during a storm. So that's why the communications with the CERT teams is so important, that their boots on the ground with all their 500 members and all their teams out in the areas in the different neighborhoods and different sections of Manatee County. It's so important that they're able to tell Jodie's teams what's going on. And we saw that during the 2024 storms, that communications is imperative for her and her teams to be able to get out there, even at first light or after the pre-storm and after storm, to be able to get out there and secure those areas, make sure the people are getting the help they need, and making sure that FEMA's out there and that. But CERT is telling them where we got lights down, we got trees down, we got mobile homes that are missing mobile homes off their pads, we have roofs that are missing, we have people that are in need. and she can get her teams and EMS out there and fire out there and all the things that she does that we run out of the EOC, that Director Fiske runs out of the EOC. So I think the communications is the biggest piece of what we do out there. And outside of what the CERT team does for the neighbors and, help those folks that have been, horribly impacted by these storms and what happens, providing basic essentials for some of these folks that are out there, helping them just getting through that time is so important also. But I think communications with back and forth between EOC, boots on the ground through these storms, and hopefully we don't have any storms this year, and we don't need CERT.
Right.
We hope so too.
But CERT is always on standby. They're always ready to go. They're like, somebody puts the bat light in the air and they're ready to go. They put the CERT light up and they're ready to go out. But I think it's just so important, the communication between the EOC and the CERT. I think it's one of the number one things that I look at during a storm situation.
And during Helene, to give you an example, before we formed our team in Glen Lakes, worked with Trailer States, their teams went out and did what we call initial damage assessment. They actually wrote down 7 pages, and it could be anywhere from an awning down to a tree. That information was passed on to the EOC and the fire departments to know the good, bad, and the ugly. And that's just one example. But what CERT teams also do is what we call in blue skies events. So to give you an example of this is Lakewood Ranch. There were a 5K run. The CERT members helped traffic control during that 5K. I remember years ago at y'all's Rocky Bluff Library had Touch a Truck. Members of the CERT team assisted with traffic control and parking at that. So because as we know, if we just wait for that storm, it could be years and years. You have to engage those volunteers. So we look at Trailer States does a breakfast, but working that 5K, working that Touch a Truck, parking cars at a fire department open house, keeping those volunteers engaged. That's what's important, to keep them going and looking at other things that they can do to provide help.
And I think Steve's right, but I think the key word is volunteers. We are not paying these folks to go out and do this. I'm not having to put them on Director Fiske's staff and that type of stuff. These are volunteers. So these are such great folks out there in the community that are volunteering to be out there to assist during anything, gray sky, blue sky, whatever. But it's just a phenomenal group of people that do it all the time.
It's a great way, it sounds like, for people who want to get engaged and in touch with their community. Now, for clarity's sake and educating me, Jodie, what is the difference when you have a CERT volunteer versus a first responder on your team?
So a first responder is going out with a very specific tasking involved. They are your first responders. They are your paramedics, your EMTs, your firefighters, your police officers. They're your search and rescue teams that we get from the task forces across the state. They have a purpose to be somewhere. They are purposely going to go into areas that are dangerous, that require specialized training. A volunteer, please don't do that. The volunteers, we want our volunteers to be safe first and foremost, but they are doing it because they want to. And I would honestly say that I cannot even remember the name of the movie right now, but it was a quote that, you can't beat the heart of a volunteer. They're doing it because they want to do it. They're doing it because they love it. And that's not to say that first responders don't. I think that these two will speak to the fact that there's a significant number of retired first responders that come out of working, their careers and go into CERT volunteers. But the volunteer has a pretty broad responsibility, but they're also doing it because it's their neighborhood. I think that they're doing it because they care about their neighborhood. And that's a level of dedication and passion that, I can't pay people enough to have that type of mindset.
And we want to have that kind of community, right, where people are engaged. They're wanting to check on their neighbors. They're wanting to stay vigilant, aware, helping when they can be useful. Jodie, what would you say, in terms of someone getting interested in this, what should they do during a disaster, and maybe what should they not do? What should they rely on some of their partners?
As far as the CERT team specifically, I think one of the things that the CERT teams across the county should be really proud of is that I think that right now they're probably the most empowered they've ever been to work with each other, to train each other. I have a staff. I have a chief, a deputy chief, and 4 coordinators. That is not nearly enough people to go out and train all of the new volunteers and the new folks that want to step up. So we have, Steve, we have Sharon, we have, I think, Jim in Lakewood Ranch. All of these folks, they can teach you this course. If you want to start a CERT team, go to the CERT teams. They are the ones you're going to be working with. Those are the relationships that you need to really foster. Go out and do that. What I do not want people to do is go to a website and look up top 10 best response techniques and then run out and try it.
Right.
We don't either.
Right. It's always go to a subject matter expert. They are not hard to find, especially here in Manatee County. We're very fortunate with retired first responders. We've got a lot of veterans that live in the community. We have a lot of CERT volunteers. And frankly, we get a lot of folks that come to Manatee County from other counties that have that experience level as well. So don't ever come to me and tell me you can't find a subject matter expert in this county to point you in the right direction. But, our CERT teams, they are growing far and away from where it started. And, we don't ever want to see that major disaster, but it really only takes one. Yep. And I think 2024 was a really big eye-opener for a lot of people.
And Steve, just if someone wants to get involved, or Sharon, maybe you have on this too, how do they get involved? Where do we start? If they're like, hey, this sounds amazing. I have a background in this. I'm retired, or I have more time. I would love to help my community. Where do I begin?
Sure. So to piggyback on what the director was saying, there's roughly, I did a quick survey, there's about 15 trained instructors in our county. But if you just Google Manatee County CERT, it will take you to a website of the counties that lists the CERT teams, and they have a point of contact. Because Sharon and I are here, our names are on there too. They can email us and ask, but any of the other CERT teams, we're beginning to work together as the teams to have more open classes. Matter of fact, at this moment in time, we're teaching a train-to-trainer instructor class out at Cedar Hammock Fire Control District. We have 17 people in that class from 6 different counties learning to become instructors.
That's awesome.
So
we'll link to that CERT website to find your contact information. Right. And when is your training?
Our training is going on right now.
Okay.
It started at 8:30 this morning. It's for the next 3 days. So not only Manatee County, but throughout the state are in need of CERT instructors, because we want to make sure, not just us, but the CERT community, that the people are trained properly. And it was alluded to earlier, and the director mentioned it. We don't want people just showing up. Yeah. You don't ever self-deploy as a citizen, as a first responder. We want to have that mission. We want to make sure those people are trained and they have that working knowledge of, again, what to do, not to do. And the CERT teams meet quarterly with the county. The emergency management holds a quarterly, what we call the CERT coalition. So those teams meet quarterly to exchange ideas and thoughts and things like that. But the biggest thing is keep that loop there going between emergency management and the CERT teams, because if we're better informed, we can keep our residents better informed too.
Well, I think I'm on Matt's speed dial. Yeah. When people make an inquiry, then Matt will normally forward me that inquiry, and I immediately contact the people, try to make arrangements for what they want, what they need. And even after the training, Steve and I were talking before you guys got here, we continue to work with those teams even after the classes are over. I just got an email yesterday from one of our teams who needed their radios weren't working when they had a drill. And we've got a guy that's really good with that, and we put him in touch. And we work with these communities continuously if they want us to.
I think really honestly, the biggest thing is that the CERT teams themselves are an entity that needs to be self-sufficient, self-reliant. Our team is responsible for the entirety of Manatee County. We're not just worried about residents. We are focusing on critical infrastructure. We're looking at gaps. We are looking at where are we going to put a field hospital if we need it? Where do we need to focus our search and rescue efforts? Where, during Hurricane Ian, I learned what lily pads were. Where do we need to do these major operations? So the more that the CERT teams can communicate and coordinate with each other during a disaster is great. But in blue skies, the more that they have the ability to get out into communities and surrounding areas and have visibility at events to draw in more volunteers, that only helps us out. Because our concerns, we're not only concerned about what our volunteers are doing, we have a specific support function within the EOC that does that. We need for our volunteers, when volunteers are good, they are great. When volunteers, like Steve said, self-deploy, just show up, just start bringing in resources, that becomes such a headache for us that we're going to run you out of the county before I ever learn what you're trying to do.
You know, we're talking about being a good neighbor, being engaged in your community. Commissioner, for you, you're a lifelong resident of this area. What does a prepared neighborhood look like here in Manatee County?
Well, I think a prepared neighborhood is a great neighborhood. A prepared neighborhood leans on the citizens they have that are trained to do what they do. We might reach out, if a neighborhood like Lakewood Ranch has a great CERT team out there, the citizens out there need to understand who their CERT team is, who Jim is, so that if they have, even during blue skies or gray skies, they can reach out to them and ask them questions. And the more a citizen understands about what they need to do during a storm, not just evacuating or board up your house or if you have hurricane windows and doors or whatever, but understand they can reach out to CERT teams and say, look, this is how you're going to supply your home. This is what you need in your home. If you have an animal or a pet, this is what you need to do. And to get ready for that storm, pre-storm, and then after storm, of course, we know our CERT teams are on the ground. I don't know if we said what CERT means yet. It's Community Emergency Response Team is what a CERT is. And these teams, so in a great community, like I think we have one in Palmyra. I'm not sure if we have one in Palmyra yet or not, but I'd like to see start one in Palmyra. And I'll be at a meeting today where we'll talk about that. But I think a prepared community is a safe community, is a ready community for a storm. And how we do that, we rely on the citizens that are trained to do that. We can't blow up the EOC every day. So thousands of citizens calling the EOC every day for questions, but they can reach out to their CERT teams and get those simple questions answered and things like that. So I think CERT does a great job of that, preparing the communities. And I said, like, a prepared community is a ready community and ready for a storm, pre-storm and after storm.
Something else that CERT does that's not even related to an emergency, but we have enough medical training that if something happens to a family member, I've been out in the public when someone got hurt and people pretended they didn't see them laying there on the ground. We know how to take care of it. We know what to do, and we do it. And we never go beyond our CERT training. I don't care if you're a brain surgeon. When you put on your CERT shirt, you don't go beyond the training you've received there. But we, and I know Steve has been in situations where they've had the same thing happen to them, and we were able to take care of people.
There's something here that's striking me there about when a community knows each other, when you know your neighbors, like something psychologically is different about how you feel about your community. I'm curious. It feels like CERT teams are really building that trust and building community by just, like you said, that engagement. So have you seen that with the communities that have CERT teams, the feeling of belonging or even the engagement of those residents, is it higher?
Well, I think to give you a couple of examples, we mentioned Trailer Estates doing a breakfast during the winter months that bring in residents and just recognizing.
Like
Lakewood Ranch.
150.
Lakewood Ranch setting up on Main Street or doing the 5K. Give an example of our Glen Lake CERT team. We did a food drive for the food bank, little small neighborhood, 1,000 pounds of food in that neighborhood. Again, just bringing in the neighbors, going what the commissioner's saying is from past experience. If emergency management or the fire department or sheriff's office has a point of contact to these CERT teams, it gives them a better way to communicate than, I need to ask someone at Lakewood Ranch. No, they know to call Jim Emanuelson at Lakewood Ranch or Glen Lakes or Trailer. It helps with a point of contact both ways, not just one way. And when they see us out doing various things in our shirts, whether it's training, a drill, a food drive, a breakfast, that's just the branding of what's that green shirt about.
Oh, what is that sound, Stu? That is our lightning round. So we're going to ask some Rapid fire questions, so short answers from the group here. Are you ready? We'll start with you, Commissioner Rahn. We'll go around
wonderful.
this way, okay? Okay, well, you can all answer this one because I think it's an important one. People want to know. Ready? Biggest hurricane prep mistake Floridians make?
Not evacuating.
That and knowing what their zone is.
And knowing where to evacuate.
I am going to say complacency. We see too many people that go, I survived Ian. Helene wasn't that bad for me. Milton didn't touch me. They assume that it's going to skip over us. So don't be complacent.
Okay, one emergency item that everyone forgets.
First aid kit.
Can opener.
Cash money, because you can't use your debit card.
Toilet paper.
Most underrated preparedness tool.
Your local emergency manager. Everybody wants to go to FEMA. Everybody wants to, go to Lowe's and what should I put in my kit? Your local emergency managers, they work for you. Ask us the questions.
Probably our team leader, and not going in when you have a question and asking. That's the person who knows everything that's going on in an emergency.
Knowing that point of contact.
So you're saying the most,
You all gave people as the tool,
Yeah.
but the most underrated preparedness tool.
I'm going to say a portable radio.
Hey, okay. Very good. Okay, Jody, paper maps or GPS?
I gotta say paper. Don't get me wrong, I love our tech, but it will fail. Just expect that.
No, paper.
Paper.
Being a United States Marine, paper map.
I'm a GPS girl, but okay. I'll leave the emergency people in charge of that. Jody, what is one thing you personally keep stock year-round?
Like for my family or for myself?
For your family.
Oh. We
Is it
keep
different?
I keep Red Bull for myself. I would never
Red
let my
Bull.
children have a Red Bull. We actually have a bank of chargers for electronic devices.
I have a generator.
Battery charged on the generator.
Generator for me.
Okay, I'm going to reverse it again. Okay. Commissioner Rahn, weirdest thing you've ever seen people do before a storm?
Weirdest thing before a storm? I've seen people sleeping in their car before a storm.
Going outside and looking at the weather.
I think doing nothing.
Joining TikTok.
What's the kind of person that makes a great CERT volunteer?
Someone that's willing to give up what they are doing every day for someone else.
Someone that wants to help their community but will listen to instructions by others.
Following instructions, being there, being able to do what you do, and do it well.
Someone who's motivated and compassionate.
Very good. What's more powerful during a disaster, government systems or strong neighbors?
I'd say strong neighbors.
Strong neighbors.
Strong neighbors.
Neighbors.
All right, final message to residents heading into hurricane season.
Be prepared, be vigilant, be aware, and when you're told to do something, do it.
Have a plan and have a kit.
And have a communication so that your family that's out of state, that doesn't know what's going on, you have some way to get a message to them or someplace you're going to be so they can check it.
Everything that they just said, register for your alerts. Take the time now. Look up your zone. Look up your flood area. Talk to your insurance if you have flood insurance. Ask. Come to the EOC for the coffee and questions. Engage your CERT teams. Now is the time to be curious, because if you are curious during a storm, you're going to get very short answers, and we're going to direct you to the website.
And thank you so much. Disasters test so much more than infrastructure. They're testing our communities, and CERT is ultimately about ordinary people who decide not to be helpless in difficult moments, but to help their neighbors. So it's about training, preparation, communication, and being the kind of neighbor that someone can count on. And if you'd like to learn more about CERT, we will link it in this podcast. You can also visit mymanatee.org. I want to thank you all for this time and telling us more about CERT. And with that, doing the work that matters, I'm Stephanie Garrison.
I'm Mike Rahn.
Steve Litschauer.
Sharon Denson.
Jodie Fiske.
And make it a great day to live, work, and play in Manatee County.
The opinions expressed by guests of Chambers Changes in Conversations do not necessarily reflect those of Manatee County government or its employees.